got a crazy-ass true story to tell. It could be funny, or thrilling, or creepy, as hell. And when you speak, surely none will make a sound. And the world's going breathless when your true story comes.
All right, welcome back to Your Best True Story podcast, episode 4, and this is a exciting episode for a few different reasons, one of which is we've got an incredible new guest host with us. Our typical co-host, FCAT, is away on family duties, and so this episode, we're introducing Chelsea into the mix. And Chelsea, I know you've been trying to get on the show for months. We could not get your application and background check and everything processed because of some of the stuff you did in Mexico. But we've gotten that squared away now, and you've finally been approved. But we've got some other exciting news that I was going to add, that we actually have determined the winner from January. So I don't know if you, Chelsea, realize how the show works, where we do a online vote, and then whoever basically receives the most votes from all the calls the prior month, they actually win for that month and win $250. And so this episode, we're announcing that the winner from January is Bob Sorrentino. And so we're going to be reaching out to Bob and offer the $250 to him. And I think even try to interview him on the show to get a little bit more detail about his ghost stories. So now, Chelsea, before we begin, do you have any strong opinions on paranormal, cryptid things, anything like that? Are you a believer, a skeptic? What's your...
I'm definitely a hardcore believer. You know, I've had my own interactions with paranormal and ghosts, and I grew up in New England where the lore runs deep. But yeah, I guess I should probably call those stories in. I don't want to give them away for free if there's a chance to win $250.
That's probably a smart idea. But if you do want to share any of them on the show for free for the audience today, feel free, if anything reminds you.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely will. I can say there's some that aren't mine, but, you know, I'm from Rhode Island, and we had a big vampire thing in like 16 or 17 or 1800s, I don't know. I was born in 1993. I don't know how I'm supposed to know how far back that was. But it was the Mercy Brown and the Nellie Vaughn. And I've gone to the Nellie Vaughn gravesite every time that I've visited Rhode Island since I moved to Florida here. And the story is that if you go to the cemetery where she's buried, she's got this big tomb encased. And if you go and you press your ear to it, you'll hear scratching. And when you hear the scratching, if you turn around, you'll see her ghost. I've never heard the scratching, but I am very, I'm going back every time I visit. I am determined to see Nellie Vaughn. The stories are that she's very friendly. She's very kind. She's a nice apparition. I don't really love the Mercy Brown stuff because she's not supposed to be as nice. I actually did go there one time with my cousins in the middle of the night, close to Halloween. And we got out of the car and we heard laughing in the woods, and it's an old out in the middle of nowhere type of cemetery. And we get out, we just hear cackling in the woods, and we hauled ass right back to the car, and we went right back home. We drove 30 minutes to be there. We're like, nope, turned right back around. So, but
cackling in the woods is never good. Whether it's a ghost or... It's never a good scenario.
No. Yeah. Even if it wasn't the vampire, whoever's cackling in those woods, I did not want to be a part of that. So.
Yeah. Even if they're just like a happy hippie that's on some mushrooms or something, that they still don't need to be cackling.
No, they don't need to be cackling. I will leave them to their good time. I'm going to go home and go to bed in that scenario every time.
And are both of those... women related to vampires?
Yeah. So in the early times when they were dealing with plagues and stuff, people would,
like in the 1980s.
yeah, in the 1980s, probably, before my time.
Yeah.
So they were both related to vampire lore. And so it's interesting. I'll share those ones for free because that one's some you can go and look up on your own. I have my own stories that I'll call in, but yeah, there's a lot of vampire lore in New England, which is pretty cool. You should look it up.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds spooky.
Mm-hmm.
And yep. So all right, and for a refresher for anybody that is just kind of tuning in to this being their first episode, the way the show works is I have got 4 phone calls that I'm going to play for guest host Chelsea. She has never heard the phone calls before, so she'll be reacting and giving us her thoughts in real time. I've already heard the calls, so I'm a little bit more prepared than her, but we will go ahead and play those and start off with, are you excited for the first phone call, Chelsea?
I definitely am.
All right. Hold on one moment and let me see if I can actually play it. And this is going to be a call from Willie, is what he said his name was, in Oklahoma. And we're just calling this call Red Eyes.
I'm already scared.
Hey, my name is Willie. I'm from Kyoto, Oklahoma. I saw this show on the internet. Figured I'd dare crack at it and tell one of my stories. So back in the day, when I was a kid, we had a bunch of livestock. We had a bunch of pigs, show pigs, worth a lot of money, and then we had some cows. And one day, livestock started going missing. We couldn't figure out what was going on because we had all of our gates secure. We'd check them and make sure that they were locked and secure as far as nothing getting in. But something was taking the livestock over the fence, and we couldn't figure out what it was. So we'd had 3 or 4 pigs missing a month and a couple cows, and we decided to do something about it. And my dad, he got me and my 2 brothers, and we went looking for our pigs and a couple of those cows, and we didn't get too far. Was in the woods, and noticed we caught out a couple blood trails and a couple bones, and so we just kept following those trails, and then got a little bit further in the woods and noticed that we had one of our pigs up at a tree, and it looked like it was skin alive. Now, we wasn't sure what the hell was doing this, because to bring a 400-pound show pig up in the woods like that, you got to have a lot of strength. And this is in Kyoto, Oklahoma, so we're not really known for bears, and couple black bears, but not anything outside that could drag it up in a tree, maybe a panther. I don't know. We wasn't sure what it was, but my grandma, she's full-blood Native American, and she would tell us these stories about Bigfoot and how Bigfoot would sometimes go to farms and take livestock to feed. And we all just thought it was a bunch of folklore and, just things that you'd tell kids just to scare them not to go in the woods. But we weren't sure, so my cousin Jeremy, he decided that he would stay over at Grandma's and, stay on the roof and stay overnight up there, because he had a real good bird's eye view for anything that come out of those pens. He'd be able to see it pretty clearly. Well, I was up there probably around 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. From what he said, there was 2 red eyes that showed up, and it was about in the middle of the woods, he said, and so he took his 12 gauge and shot at it. Well, he shot at it, and that thing just took off. Sorry. So he shot at it, and that was the last time that we saw those red eyes, and that was the last time we thought missing some livestock. So we don't really know. I don't know if anybody else there has ever experienced this, that maybe had, some livestock, pigs or cows or whatever. But, yeah, that's my story. I figured I'd call in. I saw this show on the internet, and I just, maybe I'll win or something. But yeah, appreciate it. And this is Willie from Kyoto, Oklahoma.
So what do you think?
Well, that story did take a couple of turns, when he first started talking about the missing livestock. I definitely thought that we were going the alien route. And then we talked about, he's from Oklahoma. He mentioned that. I'm like, okay, probably definitely skinwalkers. But then he got into Bigfoot, and that took the wildest turn of all. I'm definitely a Bigfoot believer. And, the fact that he saw the red eyes in the woods and shot at it, and they never came back again, it does make me feel like it could be Bigfoot because, as everyone knows, Bigfoot is the hide-and-seek champion of the world. So if he knows that you've seen him, he's not coming back. So those are my initial feelings.
So that is amazing. So you believe in Bigfoot, aliens, skinwalkers, the whole range. You believe in all of it.
I do. I'm very paranoid about the world and all of the things that could be around me. So I really do my homework on all of this stuff. But yes, definitely.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
So before I have to take off, Joe, I wanted us to check if you still feel like Corn Pop was actually the one who killed JFK and Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy.
Donnie, where are you going? Do you need to pick up some extra self-tanner for prison or something?
Good one, Sleepy Joe, but even in prison, I'll probably have more supporters than you. Now, about this Corn Pop thing, do you really think your buddy from the 60s committed the assassinations? Based on what the guys have been saying, I'm starting to think it was President Lyndon Johnson orchestrating everything through the military-industrial complex.
Exactly what I said, man. It was Corn Pop. Corn Pop didn't pull the trigger himself, though. He had the CIA, Spooks, Hoover, and the boys do all the grunt work, but it was always Corn Pop yanking the strings.
Oh, so Corn Pop was President Lyndon Johnson. Whenever you tell those weird rambling stories about Corn Pop, you're talking about LBJ?
Yes, of course. Corn Pop was LBJ's street name back in the good old days when we were hustling people with 3-card Monty and giving flappers the old tickle foot. Corn Pop killed everybody, man. Taught Bill and Hillary everything they know.
Oh, well, I guess that all makes a little more sense now.
Yeah, Corn Pop was a hoot, man. You would have loved him. I missed that guy. If Corn Pop was still around, the three of us could probably invade France or something fun.
That does sound fun, Joe. The French can't fight for shit. Let's make a pledge. Whoever loses in 2024 gets appointed Secretary of State by the other.
Deal, fatty, deal. I think I'm starting to warm up to you a little, Donnie.
Well, it is interesting because I'm sort of mixed opinion on Bigfoot. And just to prepare you, there's another Bigfoot call actually at the end of the show.
Good.
So, yeah, which is even a little bit weirder, I will warn you. But I go back and forth on Bigfoot because it does seem kind of improbable in this day and age that you could have a giant monkey creature running around that doesn't get caught on camera or by drones.
Well, do you think that Bigfoot is there's just one, or do you think that Bigfoot is a species?
Yeah, it could be a species, and it could be just, a very small number of them. And so if you consider, with all this stuff, I kind of think, even, say, 75% of the sightings or people claiming to see stuff is just BS. Mm-hmm. They're either crazy or misidentify something. But even if only 10 or 20% are real, then that means they're real. And there could be just a very small number of them, sometimes hiding out in the Pacific Northwest or wherever. So I don't know. I go back and forth, but you're a firm Bigfoot believer, huh?
I am. And so one of the things that really sold me on it is, have you ever seen the missing people map overlaid in the national park caves map?
Yes.
So
I was explaining that to Freddie, I think in the last show, Missing 411.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. And so I think that Bigfoot is a species, and I think that they live in the national parks because that's, of course, protected land. And if you stay on the trails, you're probably safe, other than the panthers and all of that. But I think that if you're getting too adventurous in those parks, I think that's where Bigfoot lives. And I think there's a couple of those caves in Oklahoma that maybe he might be nearby. And I think
that's what
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you probably already know this, but there's a whole theory that Teddy Roosevelt, president that started the whole national parks thing, was basically doing it to contain the monsters living in the national parks.
That's actually something I haven't heard before, but that is something that I will dive into right after we're done with this show today.
Well, this is all going to line up perfectly. I don't want to give away where the phone calls are going, but I will say, so you think that Bigfoot is responsible for the missing 411. My assessment is that it's actually inner Earth people living in the caves below us that come out and snatch people.
Really?
How do you feel about cave dwellers?
Cave dwellers? The actual people living in caves, that's harder for me to wrap my head around. And maybe that's because I'm used to our, everyday luxuries like air conditioning and going to the grocery store.
No, more like things that sort of used to be human or never completely developed to being human. Like, I don't want to get, because one of our upcoming phone calls actually deals with this. So I should wait till we get to that phone call to go into it.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I don't know, it's a pretty spooky theory to me that there might be people living in the caves. Yeah. But yeah, as far as Willie's story, so that definitely sounds like a Bigfoot to me. Because it would have to be pretty large to drag a pig up in a tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm stuck here between Bigfoot and possibly some kind of skinwalker. But everything that I do, everything I know about skinwalkers, they're not real concerned if you see them, and if you see them, that's bad news for you. So I'm leaning towards Bigfoot there.
In skinwalkers, aren't skinwalkers the Navajo? They're like witch doctors that turn themselves into creatures on short-term basis. They're not like you're not a full-time like monster as a skinwalker. You're sort of like a medicine man that turns into a thing, right?
I guess. My understanding of it is that they aren't necessarily doctors, but I could always do more homework on all of these things. I could spin myself into many spirals looking up all these things, but I thought skinwalkers were comparable to Wendigos. So I guess we'll have to.
Yeah, well, I think, and I'm definitely not an expert on the Wendigo skinwalker thing, but I think the Wendigo is like a full-time creature. Mm-hmm. And the skinwalker is just like a witch doctor guy that when he wants to go out and do some creepy stuff, he can turn himself into like a wolf or something to sneak up on you. Mm-hmm. So
that would be way worse news, because then you would really never know when you're talking to a skinwalker.
No, exactly. They're tricky bastards.
But yeah, no, and for Willie's story, I'm leaning towards Bigfoot. With that he never came back, because Bigfoot obviously has been very, very good about keeping himself concealed. So I am definitely leaning towards Bigfoot there.
All right. Well, it sounds like Bigfoot to me, based off of all of the Bigfoot reports I have analyzed, which is 2.
You are the reigning expert at this point.
It definitely seems like a Bigfoot encounter.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go on to something that's creepy, doesn't involve cryptids at all, but to me, this is pretty bizarre and kind of gives, I don't know, it kind of like I have a lot of hesitations about where technology is going anyway. Mm-hmm. So This call does not help my fears, and it is from Charlotte in Ohio, and I have called this call Child Stalker. And Charlotte, take it away.
Hey everyone, my name is Charlotte. I am in the Columbus, Ohio area and work in the medical equipment industry as an outside sales rep. So on any given day, I can be pretty much anywhere in the state, from visiting doctors' offices, clinics, hospitals, trade shows, and even sometimes in our central office or working from home. And why that's important for you to understand is because of the utter weirdness and creepiness of what is going on, in that there's absolutely no rhyme or reason to when or where I'll be eating lunch on any afternoon. And even the time I eat lunch varies dramatically, from sometimes 11 a.m. or sometimes I'm literally grabbing food from a gas station at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or sometimes I'm at home. Basically, what is happening that's so disturbing and weird and creepy the longer it goes on is that every Tuesday, only on Tuesday, and I mean every Tuesday for the past almost 3 months straight, so exactly 11 times total now, I get a voicemail shortly after finishing eating. And it's never a phone call. There's no number that pops up. It's just the voicemail being sent to my number. And it's typically within 10 to 15 minutes of me finishing whatever it is, whenever it is, and wherever I am on a Tuesday. And it is the voice of a little girl just announcing what I had for lunch, what I just finished eating. And it sounds kind of funny at first and inconsequential, and even I laughed when it first happened and became like intrigued, thought it was a coincidence. And then the second time it happened, got more interested, thought somebody was playing a practical joke on me. But the fact that it just keeps on going on and on with no explanation, and not even explanation, but I don't have any concept of how it's being done. Because, like, there's no, I've even gone out of my way to be in places that I know no one can see me. I've turned off my phone completely. I even one time left my phone in a desk drawer in my office when I went to eat, and then went and ate by myself to make sure that absolutely there was no way that anyone could see what I was doing. And I'll even play for you the last voicemail from her that I kept as an example, and which I tried to show a police officer, have him listen to it, but he didn't seem to get why it was a problem at all. But just listen to this and keep in mind that this is after I have been eating purposely in an empty Walmart parking lot in my car, where I can see in all directions that no one is watching me or following me. And I had my phone off and in the glove compartment, and then I still got this voicemail from her, which was accurate 10 minutes after I got done eating.
Pepperoni pizza slice and a Diet Coke.
And I know this is maybe isn't a big deal, but in the same way, it is freaking me out. And I'm starting to lose sleep, and get my job performance is getting worse, and I just don't know what's going on. If anyone out there has any idea and could please call in to tell me if they've ever heard of this or know what it is or why it's happening to me. I don't have any enemies that I know of, and I don't know of anyone. This little girl doesn't sound like anyone I know, any of my friends' kids or anything like that. And even if it was, how would she be doing what she is doing? How do they know? Who are they? I don't even understand this, and it's freaking me out. If somebody could please just give me an idea, I would be very appreciative. Thank you very much. And again, Mrs. Charlotte from Ohio. Thank you.
Chelsea, are you stalking Charlotte?
I am not, I am very interested in people's lunches, but I am not personally stalking Charlotte and her lunches, but I really don't know what to make of that. I truly don't.
I thought it was you. That was my only solution I came up with.
That just shows that you do know me well, because I am very, very interested in what people are eating for lunch and when they're eating lunch. But no, this one was not me.
That would be pretty creepy if you didn't know how somebody was observing you. Why?
Yeah, and it's like, it's not even about the lunch at that point. I mean, it is, obviously, but if you are taking it as far as leaving your phone in your desk and going different times of the day and going somewhere where no one can see you, it's like, how often are those eyes on you? That's the creepy part to me.
Yeah. It's creepy as hell. Have you ever heard of a thing called gang stalking?
No, I have not.
All right, so I found out about this concept, and I'll read from Wikipedia. Gang stalking, also known as group stalking, is a set of persecutory beliefs in which individuals believe they are being followed, stalked, and harassed by a large number of people, estimated to affect 0.66% of adult women and 0.17% of adult men in the Western world, which, if I'm doing my math right, that's millions of people.
Yeah. That's terrifying, because then you don't even have one person you can look for.
Yeah. Well, the way I found out about this, for the other podcasts I host, the Independent Riot, it's like an interview show. And one of the guys that I interviewed was a professor from Cal State, I think it was, that wrote this fascinating true story about a buddy of his named Damien that ended up, like 10 or 15 years ago now, getting gang stalked. And the episode title is "The Craziest True Story You'll Ever Hear," because the author, the professor Robert Guffey, was very skeptical, the way he thought about things. So he basically looked into all of Damien's story and was trying to help him, and found out that the majority of it was true. He was getting harassed by all kinds of strangers. They were going into his apartment, trying to basically drive him crazy almost. And they sort of did. And there was never a clear explanation of who was doing it to him or why. But that's where I first heard about the term, and then I looked it up, and apparently this happens to more people than you would think. Like tens of thousands or hundred or maybe even millions. So
yeah,
the theory with Damien's situation, the one that the author wrote about, was actually the contractors in the military industrial section that basically would pick people as targets to run psyops on for practice. So maybe that is the answer to Charlotte's situation. She's just been picked out by some secret military contractor that is harassing her to see what she'll respond to.
Yeah, I really that's such a dramatic thing to think of, but I can't think of anything else. If she doesn't have any enemies, it sounds like she kind of keeps to herself. She's a medical rep, so it's not like she's in any kind of egregious field or anything like that. It sounds like,
yeah.
who else could be messing with Charlotte and it's such an inconsequential detail, like what I ate for lunch. And so it's so strange that somebody would pick that to mess with her about. So it really seems like something somebody's doing to, drive her crazy and mess with her and like get into her psyche, because now she's thinking about it all hours of the day. So that's really crazy. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it seems like it's just a thing to get in her head and let her know she can be watched anywhere at any time.
Yeah.
But it could be a prank. I remember when when I was in high school, we randomly picked a security guard that patrolled our high school parking lot, and we just started hiding in bushes occasionally and throwing powdered donuts at him. And then we'd run away.
I think
and
he
we just
probably knew it was you.
I don't think he ever caught us. Well, I don't think he ever saw it. But we just wanted to get in his head that at any point somebody could peg him with a powdered donut. And it was just psychological warfare.
Yeah.
So that could be what's going on with Charlotte's situation. Or, it could be a military contractor. Or in your deep research into Bigfoot, have you ever found where Bigfoot and or little girls that hang out with Bigfoot stalk people and leave voicemails?
No, I think Bigfoot's MO is more throwing powdered donuts at security guards.
Yeah, that's it. That's where we got it.
I figured. But no, I can't think of any good explanation for that. That's crazy.
My other theory is that it might be some weird glitch with artificial intelligence, like the way that's all rapidly advancing. Like maybe she downloaded some app or something that is using AI to track her calories or something. Like there's something she hasn't thought of that she actually allowed the it to observe or track her data, and now it's just announcing in a little girl voice for some reason what she's eating. I don't know.
Yeah, but she left her phone in the desk. How does it know to tell her she's eating pepperoni pizza if I agree with you that AI is out of control and it's getting worse every day, but how would it know that she was eating pepperoni pizza in a Walmart parking lot by herself? That's crazy.
It could be a drone. Drones like up in way up high, and even the ones that are in like whatever that layer is before going into outer space, supposedly they can zoom in on a license plate.
Really?
Yeah, but that again goes back to the only people that would be able to do that would be like military contractors and the Pentagon and CIA and people.
I had an ex-boyfriend who got a speeding ticket from a drone, and this was like, I don't know, 12 years ago. So maybe
from a drone?
Yeah, from a drone. He was on 75 in somewhere in Florida, and he got a speeding ticket from an FHP drone. And this was a while back, like way before we started really talking about AI and all of that stuff. So maybe they have more advanced technology than we are led to believe, and way more advanced technology than we have as civilians.
Wow. Well, doesn't that make you on some level just think, damn, I should have made different career choices?
Oh, for sure.
Because
for sure.
You could be sitting in a room right now just on the team that is observing Charlotte's lunch from outer space drone every Tuesday and just thinking up ways to get in her head.
Oh,
that could be.
I would be observing Charlotte's lunch every day because I need inspiration for lunch. So yes, definitely. I wish that I had joined a team to spy on people's lunches. That sounds lovely. Stress-free.
Yeah. So many,
Not for Charlotte,
so many.
though.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to bear the brunt of not everybody wins, but at least there's several people probably employed observing her lunch, and that's patriotic and good for the economy.
Yeah, exactly.
And so now we will get into call number 3. That this is going back to that subject that we almost got into earlier about this is genuinely a fairly spooky story. And so just keep in mind, I called it Cave Dweller. And it is from a guy named JJ who works in Montana for a mining company.
Okay.
And JJ, let us know your story, please.
My coworker and me work for a prospecting company. I won't say which one it is, but it's one of the biggest in Montana. My coworker is a geologist, and I'm just accompanying grunt, more or less. It's my job to make sure he can do his job, I guess. It's a good gig because I get to work outside and the pay's good. The company always wants us to go out in the middle of nowhere so my coworker can bust open some rocks and look for a place where it might be good to start a mine or whatever. He calls it chasing veins, and he's found a few good ones, so I guess that's why he keeps getting the work. So we're out there in this sort of small dip or bowl kind of thing between these mountains. It was like a 3-hour drive to get there, and he finds a good vein, I guess, and he gets all excited about it. I think he said it was feldspar, which isn't rare or anything, but he said there was something else in it that's worth chasing. We set up shop with our gear, and he tracks this vein up the side of the shallow bowl with rocky sides, and he starts hammering away at it. And I go to help him, and we're beating on this flat section with all these little crystal-looking things in it. And he said it needs to go deeper, so we go a little deeper, and suddenly I swing my hammer, and it cracks through the rock, and there's a empty space on the other side, like we found a cave. It kind of breathes out at us. There's this rush of air, likely broke a seal, and it stinks like roadkill, and the air is hot. So anyway, we shot our lights inside, and it's like a little tunnel in the rock, like a natural tunnel going deeper. And at the end, maybe 10 feet inside, is sort of a pocket, like a wider pocket where it opens up. And so we're looking inside with our flashlights, and something moves. I swear to God, it was stuck to the rock, all spread out, like it was lying flat, pushed against it. And it looked like, at first, a crazy giant lizard to me, until it lifted its head. And it was it was almost human head, but its skin was all rough and sort of pale. It had these 2 red eyes, but something was wrong with them that didn't look finished. They were kind of droopy, underdeveloped, maybe you call it. I won't forget its mouth, because it was just this round hole with these little sharp fangs all around the inside. And it made a noise, and it clicked at us when we hit it with the flashlights. And it sounded like 3 finger snaps real quick from its throat. And we heard it echo in the tunnel, like it was checking distance. My coworker, he's sort of I'll say he's not the bravest guy. So he screams when this thing makes a move toward us, like it kind of jerks, like it wants to jump out of the hole. My coworker loses footing and his flashlight goes flying, and he rolls down this little embankment kind of thing, and when I look back in the hole, the thing is gone. So later we talk about it, and I think we shouldn't say anything because no one would believe us. And I don't want to get fired for drinking on the job or whatever else people might think if we come back with this crazy story, right? But my coworker, he marches right to the local office that night and tells the whole thing. Wham. The next day, man, we go back out there and the whole area is blocked off by this tall chain link fence, and they got some kind of guard station on the dirt road leading out to the spot. But it doesn't look like our company. There's no logos, and we don't recognize anyone at all, and they won't tell us shit, and we can't get inside the fence. They turned us back. They got people scrambling all over the rocks in there, and these big floodlights hooked up the generators on trucks. It's a big operation. So then there's this huge company announcement a few days later, and everyone has to sign something that says we won't go out there no more, and we partner with National Park Service to preserve areas of critical importance or some shit. And they told everyone to stay away from those spots, or you could lose your job if you go poking around. So yeah, I don't tell the story much because it sounds crazy, and the type of people who believe it are always the ones that I think are crazy. Or, I don't know, maybe the cave tunnel breathed out some gas, or something else made us see something that wasn't there. Yeah, who knows? Anyway, the end.
Chelsea, could you hear that okay?
Yeah, I heard that.
Those are the type of cave-dwelling creatures I was referring to.
Yeah, that is so strange, and especially strange that, they blocked it off, and then they were so adamant, like, do not go back here. You will lose your job. Like, what is going on in those caves? That's crazy. It does. It really goes back to the maps we were talking about. There's something spooky going on in there.
Yep, and so the way I sort of judge what might be real as far as myths and legends and stuff is if it's replicated through multiple cultures around the world and throughout different times in history. And there's only a few things that fit that, like every culture has a flood myth, sort of like in the Bible, which is, the more they find out geological evidence of backing that up, that a great flood happened in the not too distant past. Another thing is giants, that there's all kinds of legends and multiple cultures and weird anomalies of, larger skeleton bones than normal being found in places. Bigfoot is another one that almost, every culture has some version of the Bigfoot myth. But the other one is this inner earth creatures, or sort of humans living not too far below the surface. And the weird thing, it's pretty damn spooky, but it makes a lot of sense because there's caves everywhere. So, how different whenever humans were, developing, it wouldn't be that big of a stretch to have a different branch of humans that ended up staying underground and developing to live in that underground world, which the way that guy was describing it kind of sounded like that, like the eyes and the clicking for location and stuff. So have you ever seen a movie called The Descent? That's a horror movie.
No, I never watched that one. I always meant to, but I never did. But you're right. I guess I never had considered it, but it wouldn't be too big of a stretch to think that they have a different language and they live a different way, and they live in the cave.
Yeah. Or even they're just sort of like closer almost to animals, but for some reason the inner cave people freaks me out, and that's my best bet for why people in Missing 411 go missing, is that in the national parks that you might have these cave people that snatch people and eat them.
Eat them?
Yes. Well, they're not capturing them to,
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
This is why I'm so paranoid about the world.
You need to watch The Descent, and that will get you sufficiently creeped out about inner Earth people. But the almost every Native American tribe, just like they have legends about Bigfoot, they all have legends about people living in the Earth. They have and supposedly, I think with some of them, the inner Earth people were here before us, and then we evolved or emerged from the cave. Like one of the tribes, I think in the Appalachian area, has pretty extensive myths about moon-eyed people that lived in the caves that they interacted with.
Interesting. No, I haven't heard about that. But, one thing that I did notice that was a similarity between this story and our first story from Willie was the red eyes.
Yep.
So what if the cave dwellers and Bigfoot are like kind of synonymous?
Ooh, yeah. Well, I mean, they could. Maybe those are all kind of the branches of humans or the pre-human.
Yeah.
Like maybe a branch went into the weird, creepy cave dwellers, and a branch went into Bigfoot, and then another branch became us humans that can't hide nearly as well as them.
Not even as close.
No. I suspect you're a very good hide and seek player, but you're probably not as good as Bigfoot or a cave dweller.
Not as good, but that was my favorite game as a child growing up. So, I wedged myself into some really small spaces to avoid losing hide and seek. I don't really love losing, so I'm a pretty good hide and seek player. That was
I think
that was a good analysis.
Yeah, I think you're good. I think that's a skill that's gonna serve you very well in the future.
Yes, in adulthood for sure.
Yeah, it will definitely come back to serve you well. So, all right. So far we've got one call left, but so far 3 calls have been overall, I'd say, kind of creepy. I'm trying to encourage people to even call in things that aren't paranormal or supernatural, just if they have a funny story or something like that. But the creepy stories are good too. Which out of those 3 do you think was the most creepy for you?
So far, I would give it to Charlotte, only because we live in Florida. We're not really surrounded by woods or caves or parks or anything like that. But something that every day, every person could be subject to is that, stalking or being watched by somebody. And that's something that I think that rings true with everybody who's listening, is like somebody could be watching you right now.
Yep. Yeah. And as a female, I'm sure do you have dozens of stalkers that communicate with you constantly?
Dozens, hundreds, I'm not sure. But I am, when I leave the house, I'm always looking over my shoulder for sure.
Yeah. I'm still trying to get my first stalker, but it's different for a guy.
Best of luck.
It's very, it's very tough to get a good one that doesn't give up.
Oh yeah.
But
well, once you get one good one, I'm sure they'll be very persistent. So
yeah. Well, thank you for believing in me. So our last call does go back to Bigfoot, but I'm kind of going to warn you, Chelsea, it's a little bit different of a story. And so I don't want to give away too much, but because it's very entertaining, but then, so I'll just play it. I kind of think of it as a good call since we're coming up on Valentine's Day. It's an appropriate call for that, I think. And so this is Ed, who lives close to us in Florida in the Everglades, on the outside of the Everglades. And his call is titled Lady Bigfoot. And
Lady Bigfoot.
Yep.
All right. Let's hear it, Ed.
Kind of blows my mind when I think back on it. This happened a couple of years back. My name's Ed, and me and my brother would live, his name's Reggie. We live in the Okeechobee area, close to the Everglades in Florida. And it's pretty, pretty unpopulated out there in stretches. Where me and Reggie live, we got a decent stilt home, and, we do airboat tours out of it. So we're respectable citizens, but there's quite a few of kind of riffraff and who knows what not going on, and people living in sheds and tents, and this old boy Scooter that lives about half mile up the dirt road, mine and Reggie's place. Well, Scooter had an incident a couple years back that kind of embarrassing for him, and like I said, still puts my brain in a twist. But anywho, so Old Scooter, the thing to know about him is he is a little bit of an oddball, living out there, in the swamp by himself. And he's an unfortunate-looking man, to say the least. He's probably about 5'9" and has bald head, except for one of them rings of hair that's round just like above his ears. Unfortunately, sort of makes him look like a monk. But then his face proper is also not handsome, but whatsoever. It sort of looks like it's all squinty and long, and he always looks kind of like one of them, like an opossum when it's angry, like he wants to hiss at you. So anyhow, the only reason why I'm prefacing this story with that is so you understand that Scooter didn't get the best cards in life anyway, before you judge him too harshly. And a couple years before the story, in fact, he had somehow convinced a gal to live with him out there in his mobile home, which I don't know how the hell that happened. She might have been somebody that he bought from, like, Vietnam or something like that. But anywho, as soon as the UPS delivery man figured out how to find their property, that gal, she took off with the UPS driver. It was literally one delivery, and she was in that guy's truck, and Scooter never saw her again. I think she cleaned him out of some whatever he had money-wise, too. So anyway, Scooter ain't doing too good when this occurs, and what it is all of a sudden, well, let me also say that Reggie and I, even though we know that Scooter is not, he's a little bit of a different cat, we still stay friendly with him, just to be, Christian, but then also because he owns a weed patch. That's what he makes money doing, is he's harvesting a little bit of weed there and selling it. And frankly, Reggie and I, we got medicinal issues that occasionally that weed helps us medicinally and whatnot. So ain't nothing illegal. We done declared medicinal on our weed usage. And anyway, so Scooter, we stay in good contact with him because of that. And he comes running in our place a couple years back, all sweaty, all squinty-eyed, panicking, and eyes bugging out of his head. And he starts stammering that he's caught a Bigfoot. And I shit you not, that's what he claimed. So Reggie and I, quite frankly, we thought that Scooter had finally lost his damn marbles and had been smoking too much of his own weed. But being kindly neighbors and such, we decided to head back to see what Scooter was talking about, back to his mobile home. And, well, I mean, I don't know any other way to explain it, but it appeared he had caught a Bigfoot. So we call them skunk apes, by the way, in our part. And that's because they oftentimes smell of rotten eggs and look all nasty. They're a little bit smaller than the Bigfoot, I believe, that might be around the Pacific Northwest area. So this one fit that bill entirely. It was, Scooter's probably 5'9", like I said, and I think this thing was probably about 6 foot, maybe an inch short, because I'm right at 6 foot. And even though I only saw it from a distance most of the time, or when it was crouching down, it looked to me, when I saw it standing up from a distance, it was probably just about my height, so about 6 foot. And we get to Scooter's place, and he shows us back in the shed behind the weed patch where this Bigfoot is, and I'll explain right away. It was a lady Bigfoot, and you could tell that because it had titties. And so it was more unfortunate looking than Scooter, I'd say that. It was all shaggy, fur all over it, and hairy and nasty, and smelled just like skunk apes do, like a mixture of of rotten eggs and maybe some like rat urine or something. I don't know. It was just an unfortunate smell all around. And Scooter had that old gal there chained inside his shed. And he explained to us as we're looking down at this thing, and the thing is just looking back at us, just kind of, sort of hissing, moaning, but didn't seem like he had clubbed it or anything. It wasn't really hurt. It was just chained by one paw, I guess you'd call it, inside the shed. And Scooter explained that he had caught her kind of rooting around in his weed patch, and apparently she had eaten enough of the weed that she just went to sleep. And so that's when Scooter drug her up in the shed and put the chain on her. Now she is waking up all groggy and stuff still, and so Scooter's basically, and our minds are blown. You can imagine, like, I didn't even believe in Bigfoot or skunk apes, and here's a lady Bigfoot that I'm looking at, all hairy and nasty looking, except for the two titties, which were, okay. But like, I don't know what the hell to do. And Scooter's asking us advice, and I was like, well, you just got to call, like, call the Rangers, alert the Florida Game and Wildlife Division or something and see what's to be done. And so we have a couple of shots with Scooter and purchase a little weed from him too while we're there, and then walk back to our place. And last we heard was he was calling Fish and Game first thing in the morning to reporters. So we don't really walk. Scooter doesn't have a phone, by the way, so there's no way to get a hold of him except you walk that half mile back to his mobile home. And the next day we didn't really feel like doing that because we ended up drinking a little bit more of the hooch, the whiskey, and smoking some of that weed, and just, well, screw it. We didn't feel like walking and figured Scooter'd tell us what was going on eventually. Within 3 days, though, Scooter's never returned, and, well, quite frankly, we're getting a little curious because he's got a Bigfoot on his property, So me and Reggie walked back to his place 3 days later, and lo and behold, we see the Bigfoot, the lady Bigfoot off in his weed garden, looks like she's working, tending to the garden, plucking leaves. And Scooter greets us, comes out, and he's got a big grin on his face, and he doesn't want us to go over and interact with the lady Bigfoot, but he's just like, no, she wants to stay here with me. And so, well, obviously, I mean, Reggie and I, and mistakes have been made. I'm not going to say that we made the best call in all instances, but again, Scooter hasn't got the most luck in the world, and so as we leave, we just both look at each other, and we know that Scooter's banging that Bigfoot. Like, I mean, why else would he be grinning and acting all happier than we've seen Scooter? Who knows how long, whatnot. And we don't want to judge Scooter. We're completely, even though we're Christian, we're not against the LBTQH, the T stuff. So, I mean, if Scooter wants to bang a monkey woman and that monkey woman looks like she is okay with it, she was no longer chained up. She looked happy as a peach out there picking, the marijuana leaves. So we figured as long as she wasn't tied up and she was doing everything on her own volition, then, like, what was it our business? So we head back, and again, maybe that wasn't the best choice, I don't know, but we figure, something will happen. Scooter will let us know how it ends up. And it was probably about a week later that Scooter comes in, eyes bugging, maybe as a week and a half, 2 weeks, I don't know. But Scooter comes in again, bursts in our living room. It ran the whole way from his place. His eyes are bugging out and all this, and he's panting and declares that he's knocked the lady Bigfoot up, but she's pregnant. And good Lord, Scooter, What do you say to that? I don't know. I bought a little more weed off of him while he was there, of course, but we didn't really know what kind of advice to give because I've never had conjugal relations with a Bigfoot. So, anywho, we wish Scooter luck and tell him that he might want to still call Fish and Game, and maybe they know how to process that if you accidentally knock up a lady Bigfoot. I don't know, but Scooter takes off, and then we don't check in with him for, a while. It was probably, we didn't see him for months, but that Bigfoot lady was getting larger and larger with child. You could tell that. He never wanted us to interact with her or whatnot, and we just kind of got used to the whole idea that Scooter was going to have a Bigfoot baby and, good for him. And maybe he'd get on the news once it was born and all that and get rich and famous. At least that's what Scooter kind of indicated he thought might happen. So speeding up the story because you don't want to hear all the ins and outs of Scooter's, pregnant lady Bigfoot and all that. But eventually the baby was born. And so now Scooter is the father, not only is essentially like married Lady Bigfoot, but he's, as far as I know, the first human that's created a Bigfoot hybrid, which is his son. And that baby, I saw it a couple times, and it was an unfortunate looking creature because, Scooter, as I mentioned, and the Lady Bigfoot, neither one of them were looking all that good prior to, and the child was just a mismatch of all their worst features. It was a very unfortunate looking baby. And so anywho, eventually, long story short, Scooter gets another package delivered by UPS, and I shit you not, that Lady Bigfoot and the boy, she took off with the UPS driver again. I don't know if it was the same UPS driver or what, but Scooter was devastated again because Lady Bigfoot and the boy took off with the UPS driver. And then what I hear is they did some testing during the process of the boy being born and stuff, and it turns out she wasn't a Bigfoot at all. She was just a real ugly-looking woman that was wandering around in the swamp that was real hairy. And so that's why you probably haven't heard about it on the news, because they did some sort of DNA testing at some point and found out of it. Like, no, there's no Bigfoot. It was just a very unattractive, large woman that Scooter caught in his weed patch. Except for the titties, as I said, those were okay. But apparently now she got some hair treatment or something and looks at least a little better, and now works at a Costco, married to that UPS driver. So anywho, the whole moral of the story is that, not moral, I wouldn't say, but anyway, the way it is since then transpired as Pearl Scooter, I mean, he just sits on his back porch of the mobile home and stares out of the swamp like he's hoping like another skunk ape lady's gonna come out of there and he's gonna be able to bag her, which, unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna happen for Scooter. You don't strike lightning twice like that in a lifetime. So that's my story, and yep, that's it.
Chelsea, your thoughts?
Well, Ed, you really had me in the first 3/4 of that story. Hilarious. That was the best roast of all time. He said, Scooter, unfortunate looking. Scooter's girlfriend, Bigfoot. Scooter's baby, unfortunate looking. Oh my God, that was hilarious. It really felt like the best Valentine story of all time. And then
he was trying to be very polite to the whole situation, it seemed like, because he was, as he explained, a Christian man, so I think he wasn't trying to insult him. But...
Well, sometimes Even when you say some things tactfully, it comes through. But it doesn't sound like this was necessarily a creepy story. It is his best true story. My biggest question is, why was Miss Lady Bigfoot naked in the swamp? And why?
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest question here.
Yeah, I think there could be a lot of interesting stories of how she and Scooter ended up in the same place. I imagine. Well, yeah, the backstory on why a woman's naked and hairy running around in the swamp and trying to eat people's weed patches has got to be a good one.
Yes, I think that there's more to learn here, and the only way we would learn it is by getting Scooter himself on as a guest to interview. There's more to learn here.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome if maybe Ed hears this, and although he did say Scooter didn't have a phone, so it might be difficult for him to call in.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I totally forgot that he said that.
Yeah, but I think this is kind of like, I like to end on an upbeat story, and I mean, it's sort of a heartwarming story in that Scooter almost found love, but it is kind of sad that, like, apparently you should not get UPS packages delivered to his place, because that UPS driver steals all his women.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that she got sick and tired of his friends coming around, calling her Lady Bigfoot and calling her son ugly.
That could have something to do with it. Yeah. It would be interesting if we could get her on the show.
Yeah.
Give her version of that story if everything transpired exactly as Ed was saying. Have you ever been to the Everglades or seen a skunk ape?
I have not. No, I have not. Either account.
So my dad, who grew up in Florida, he claims back in the 60s that he saw a skunk ape when he was driving past the Everglades. And it wasn't even like that fantastic of a tale, but he swore that he was driving down the road on the highway, looked over, and there was something that he described as being like larger, kind of looking like an orangutan, but bigger than that, and hanging off of a tree branch, like standing upright, but with his hand grabbing a tree branch. So I don't know. I don't know. My dad did not make stuff up like that. So it wasn't like he was telling a bunch of Bigfoot stories and stuff.
Did he pull over?
No. And I asked him that as well. And it was, I guess, getting late, like it was around dusk or something. And he just admitted, and my dad wasn't like a coward or anything, military guy, everything, but he just said, nope, I wasn't stopping and getting anywhere close to that thing.
You know, that's just good sense. Sometimes you just got to mind your own business and keep on and just know that is not your battle for that day.
Yeah. And also, if it had turned out to be a female skunk ape, then I might not be here because maybe you never would have met my mom.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. That's skunk apes, from what I could tell online. Just to give some hard facts, the skunk ape, according to Wikipedia, is bipedal, human or ape-like creature approximately 5 to 7 feet tall, covered in reddish-brown hair, and known for its foul odor. So that all does seem to fit with that woman that Scooter had chained up in his shed.
Yeah. So skunk apes, are they, is their existence debated the same way that Bigfoot's is? Or do we, are skunk apes real and we know that they're out there,
No, I think it's the same thing as Bigfoot. Okay. Basically, they're just a little bit smaller and stinkier version. Mm-hmm. But from what I've heard, people claim that it might be some of the sightings are attributed to like escaped monkeys or something like that. Okay. Like when I was looking up skunk ape facts, they did say there was, and skunk apes are only in Florida, by the way.
Oh.
And they said, yeah, notable sightings include an alleged encounter at the Perky Bat Tower in 1929.
Where's
which,
that?
Yeah, I don't know, but it sounds amazing. The Perky Bat Tower?
Yeah, I'm on my way. I'm looking that up.
Yeah. And imagine if it's a tower with a bunch of perky bats and then you've got skunk apes running around as well.
Yeah, that they're the bat keepers.
Yep. And let's see, there was apparently a very legit report in 1818 that started the whole skunk ape reporting of a man-sized monkey raiding food stores in Florida. So, yep. So the skunk apes have apparently been around for a while. Now, wouldn't a good twist to the Scooter to Ed's story be if they did another DNA test and it turned out she is a skunk ape and and then they got to like fire her from Costco or something?
That would be, or if he's also a skunk ape and they're just a happy skunk ape family.
Yeah. He didn't sound too good looking. He might have been a skunk ape.
Yeah. When maybe they are the best looking skunk apes on Earth, and that's why they resemble people so much. You know, they're the best looking skunk apes on Earth to us because they resemble people.
That is a great point. So they could potentially be the Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie of skunk apes.
That's correct. And so now we know that if ever you see anybody that we might not think, I'm going to put it like Ed puts it, if we see somebody unfortunate looking, they could just be a really good looking skunk ape.
I dare you to try that when you're out one night. Tell somebody that they're an incredibly attractive skunk ape.
I might not. I'll let you know how it goes.
All right, Chelsea. Well, those are our calls for today. And so I'm going to try to encourage more people to keep calling in, and we will keep playing the calls. And keep in mind that for February now, this is actually the first set of calls for February. So if you submit your call and it gets played in February, you do stand a chance to win the next $250. And Chelsea, I know this has been a lifelong dream of yours to co-host Your Best True Story podcast. Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience about your experience today or any thoughts in general?
No, this has been a fun experience. I hope that we can do this again. I've really enjoyed the stories, and I think that I'll be calling in my own stories for February. Yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Well, you have done a fantastic job, and so we're definitely going to invite you back on as a co-host again in the near future. And for everybody listening, if you can, please give us a good rating, 5-star rating, if you don't mind, on whatever podcast app you use, because that does help to make the show more discoverable to other people. And thank you very much, Chelsea. Thank you to the audience, and we will catch you next time.
You got a crazy-ass true story to tell. It could be funny or thrilling or creepy as hell. And when you speak, surely none will make a sound. And the world's going breathless when your true story comes around. Oh, hear the crazy bullshit flying. Just one more maybe true story before we're dying. Yet be warned, surely not all stories will be treated the same. So don't blame us if your tale about grandma's cookies is lame. The only way to ensure you could possibly win a buck is to make sure that story of yours don't suck. So instead of yawns, go ahead and tell us how that Bigfoot or werewolf drowned, and then hear the world go breathless when your true story comes around. You'll hear the crazy bullshit flying. Just one more, maybe true story before we're dying. Yet be warned, surely not all stories will be treated the same. So don't blame us if your tale about your grandma's cookies is lame.